Highlighting the best of Cyprus and the inspiring commitment to arts and culture, Culturescope shines a spotlight on the natural beauty and sheer diversity of the island, its previously hidden gems, and the people who continue to make a positive contribution to Cyprus, both locally and abroad. Hello, I'm Paul Lambis and welcome to the 5th episode of Season 2 of Culturescope, featured on Cyprus Mail's interactive web portal Good Living. Our location for this episode is the quaint and iconic village of Fyti, centrally located between Pafos and the idyllic town of Poliskrisokous. The scenic village of Fyti provides a wonderful insight into the rural charms of Cyprus. Characterized by the traditional architecture of the houses and winding paths, visitors to this corner of the island can easily settle into an easygoing Mediterranean lifestyle that respects and nurtures timeless traditions. As the main weaving center of the Pafos region, Fyti is home to the charming Folk Art Museum, housing a display of intricately decorated textiles, traditional clothing, farming implements, and donkey equipment. Built in 1947, Fity's Museum of Weaving and Folkloric Art is one of the main places of interest, renowned for its exquisitely patterned silk and cotton fabrics known as Theodorakis, a craft dating back to medieval times. Distinguished both for the variety of their patterns and their rich and vibrant colors, the woven textiles are the most remarkable form of art weaving, using the old-style loom that is unique to Cyprus. From traditional stone houses to churches that are testimony of the Byzantine civilization on the island, the village of Fyti is a model of unspoiled Cypriot naturalness and simplicity. Georgiou, better known as 2J, is a Greek Cypriot YouTuber ranking #1 in both Cyprus and Greece. Surpassing the 1 million subscriber mark, 2J's popularity is continuously rising, thanks to him remaining dedicated and true to his comedy form. Hello! 2J, you have an ardent following on YouTube. What do you think makes your content so engaging?
No one really starts YouTube to say, bam, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber. You just start just to make videos for your friends, really. I started making stupid videos just knowing some people on Facebook would see it. I was just making videos just for fun. Like, I had no money and I was making videos for 2 years, so it wasn't really a job back then. I think when you start YouTube looking to go into it to make money, it's not going to work out, because you can tell when you're trying too hard. You just have to start and just see if you're any good, because when I started I was terrible. I actually deleted the first few videos I made. They're so bad, I deleted them. So it's something you need to get into and just see if it works for you. A lot of kids today, they jump into YouTube expecting to make money and get lots of views on the very first try, and it really doesn't work like that. Back then, I never really even used to show my face. I used to make parodies, like it was purely about making people just share stupid videos. And then when you realize that it can become a job, you need to try to extend the type of videos you make. I started making vlogs. I started showing my face. The fact that I was getting a lot of positive comments and just kind of made me want to keep going, because if I weren't getting any views back then, I probably would have stopped. I used to just turn on the camera and just say whatever, and I never used to realize that what I'm saying really affects certain people, either positively or negatively. Like, I could just say something stupid. I might be mocking something, but that something means something to someone else, and you start getting comments you start to realize that you need to be really careful with what you're saying. There comes a point where you realize that half of your viewer base are kids, and they really grab onto every little thing you say. So it came to a point where I started writing scripts so I could be more careful with what I'm saying and the amount of things I wanted to say but couldn't. But it was going well, so I never changed the format until like lately I've become just a lot more expressive. I don't really care anymore because you can't please anyone, really. I am on myself, but that's the thing with YouTube. You can either be yourself and accept all the judgment you get, or you can be the correct influencer, which is what I used to try to be. I've noticed a lot of influencers aren't happy. You see a lot of influencers talk about depression and stuff because basically every day they need to turn on a camera and be anything apart from themselves. It's like acting. You turn on the camera and you say what people want you to say and you act the way you think you should act. And doing that for years, it actually starts to drive you crazy. That's the mistake a lot of people make. I think they jump into YouTube thinking they should do what makes people happy, but it doesn't make them happy. Most of the time, whatever's trending is very fake and very for the views. At some point, I was getting 2-3 million views per video. You could say that all the kids were just following the trend, which at that point was me. Like in 2016, my name was the most Googled name in Greece, but I've dropped because I just got tired of it. It's weird because you'd think that being popular and making money off what you like doing would just make you happy, but in some weird way it doesn't. I tend to do the opposite of what's trending because it makes me happier. I got into clubs fairly early. At like 14, I was DJing in some of the clubs, and in school they just started calling me 2J, which doesn't actually mean anything. So when I started YouTube, I just stuck with it because some people knew me here and there, so I just kept the name. And like they always ask me, what does 2J mean? And I've got like the worst answer. It doesn't mean anything, but I just kept it. A lot of people meet me up close and they expect me to be this happy guy, this loud guy that I am in my videos, and really I'm completely the opposite. I'm quite shy, I'm quite an introvert. If I turn on the camera and just have a conversation with the camera like I'm having with you, it's not as engaging as a YouTube video. I mean, especially today, kids are so used to like TikTok and the quick things. If they put on a YouTube video and they're not happy in the first 10 seconds, they'll go to the next video. That's what it's like today, which is why I start all my videos like bang, straight away. That's what you need to do.
Webstar στα Mad VMA 2018, 2J!
Αρχικά θέλω να πω thank you στο Mad που έχουν βάλει τέτοια κατηγορία φέτος στα βραβεία. Γιατί κάποιοι δεν το θέλανε, προσωπικά πιστεύω είναι καλό για όλο το ελληνικό entertainment.
Having built a brand on YouTube, you've established presence on other social media platforms and have even collaborated with renowned Greek music artists, rapping on their music videos. One can only wonder what is next on the cards for 2J.
I used to do a couple of things like producing wise, so I was always in the music. So when I started YouTube, I always wanted to show the music side of things. Like if you look at my whole channel, there are musical bits from early on as well. The song I made with Doors, that came about not because I wanted to make a music video, it's because I wanted to talk about the rap scene today and I wanted to do it in a more musical way. I've done a few songs, but I still don't see myself as a musician. I managed to accumulate so many views because I've got so many videos on deep diving into matters that actually matter. Sorry, my London accent. So I don't think I've given the right to anyone to come up to me and say, oh, you shouldn't say this. I've got a video on my main channel, a very short, like 2-minute video, which mocks people that watch gamers. Because back then, I thought it was weird that instead of playing games yourself, you're watching other people play games. But you come to realize that a lot of people don't have the money to buy games or don't have the time to play games, so they want to watch other people play games. And it was at that point where YouTube actually said, make longer videos. So it was a good time to create the gaming channel, because I was always into gaming anyway. But I tried to have a spin on it of making it as comedic as possible. I could think ahead of what I want to do next year, and then the internet will just flip and YouTube will just flip and everything will change. So I don't bother anymore with what I should do. I'm aware that I'll probably stop the YouTube thing soon, and I have no idea what I'm going to do after that. I want people to be able to watch certain videos of mine in 10 years from now and still agree or still like the certain things that I was saying or doing. If I go to any of my videos from 5, 6, 7 years ago, you still see comments today being left because the subjects are very ongoing with today's youth. I'd rather leave a legacy of the good things I tried to do on YouTube rather than, oh, he was the funny guy.
From world-renowned fashion shows and exhibitions to professional collaborations with international fashion houses, Stalo Theodorou's brand has become synonymous with luxurious high-end bridal fashion wear.
Θέλω να με θυμούνται σαν την νεράιδα που με το άγγιγμα της έκανε το όνειρο της κάθε γυναίκας πραγματικότητα. Έτσι βλέπω τη δουλειά μου. Στην ουσία είναι ένα παιχνίδι για μένα. Είναι αυτό που κάνω και με ευχαριστεί. Είναι σαν να περνώ συνέχεια τον ελεύθερο μου χρόνο και να παίζω.
Stalo, the complete Stalo Theodorou brand infuses an aura of romanticism with the scent of a woman that knows and gets what she wants. What inspired you to become an accomplice to the most powerful industry in the world?
Γεννήθηκα στο χωριό Τσέρι των 700 κατοίκων που σήμερα έχει 11.000 κατοίκους, έχει μεγαλώσει και ήμουνα συνέχεια μέσα στα πόδια της θείας μου, της μητέρας μου που ράβανε, έραβα και εγώ για τις κούκλες μου και μετά αυτές οι κούκλες έγιναν οι νύφες μου. Γιατί έτσι βλέπω τη δουλειά μου, ότι είναι, στην ουσία είναι ένα παιχνίδι για μένα. Είναι αυτό που κάνω και με ευχαριστεί. Είναι σαν να περνώ συνέχεια τον ελεύθερο μου χρόνο και να παίζω. Κάπως έτσι γεννήθηκε και η ανάγκη να δημιουργήσω αυτήν την εταιρεία, το δικό μου brand, γιατί κάπου ήθελα να εκφράσω όλα αυτά που είχα, να αντίσω με το δικό μου τρόπο όπως έβλεπα εγώ τις γυναίκες.
What is the ethos behind your brand?
Η μικρή μας Κύπρος έχει γεννήσει πάρα πολλούς ανθρώπους που έχουν διαπρέψει στο εξωτερικό. Δεν έχει σημασία σε ποια χώρα έχεις γεννηθεί, έχει σημασία τι κουβαλάς μέσα σου και τι θέλεις να δώσεις στον κόσμο. Τι όραμα έχεις από μωρό μέσα στο μυαλό σου και πώς να το κυνηγήσεις και πώς να το υλοποιήσεις, ας πούμε. Για μένα κάθε γυναίκα που ντύνω αποτελεί μια πρόκληση. Είναι η μούσα μου. Είναι ένας καμβάς στον οποίο θέλω να ζωγραφίσω. Και έτσι κάθε φορά προσπαθώ να δίνω τον καλύτερο μου εαυτό. Εάν δεν ήμουν σε αυτήν τη χώρα, στον τόπο που γεννήθηκα, νιώθω ότι θα ήμουν κάποια άλλη. Νιώθω ότι εδώ είναι οι ρίζες μου, εδώ είμαι γειωμένη και από εδώ παίρνω ενέργεια και μπορώ να δώσω αυτά που νιώθω και να τα εκφράσω φτιάχνοντας τα φορέματα που φτιάχνω. Θεωρώ ότι το φόρεμα εκείνο θα στιγματίσει τη στιγμή της κάθε γυναίκας, εκείνη τη μέρα που είναι μια αρχή μιας καινούριας ζωής για εκείνη. Είναι η δέσμευση για να συνεχίσει να κάνει η οικογένεια. Άρα αυτό το φόρεμα δεν είναι ένα απλό φόρεμα, είναι το φόρεμα που ονειρεύεται μια ζωή να φορέσει. Ένα νηφικό φόρεμα είναι όπως ένας πίνακας ζωγραφικής. Έχει ημερομηνία λήξης, ο πίνακας ζωγραφικής δεν έχει. Άρα αυτό το φόρεμα για μένα το θεωρώ ότι είναι ένα κομμάτι timeless. Δεν έχει ημερομηνία λήξης.
Your work received worldwide recognition and unprecedented exposure when you were invited to participate in the reality show The Brides of Beverly Hills. Would you describe that moment as the most defining in your career?
Είχα μια συνεργασία με τη Ρενέ Στράους, η οποία πρωταγωνιστούσε στη σειρά αυτή και με προσκάλεσε να πάω στο Λος Άντζελες και να συμμετέχω σε μια εκπομπή. Είναι μια πολύ δυνατή στιγμή στη ζωή μου, μια πολύ μεγάλη εμπειρία και έναν άλλο γεγονός που θυμάμαι έτσι πολύ χαρακτηριστικά Ήταν μια στιγμή, ήταν η πρώτη μου συμμετοχή στη Σπόζα Ιτάλια, στο Μιλάνο. Ήταν η πρώτη φορά που άνοιξα τα φτερά μου για να συμμετέχω σε διεθνή έκθεση και ήρθε στο περίπτερο ένας κύριος και γονάτισε μπροστά μου κυριολεκτικά και μου λέει «Δεν πιστεύω στα μάτια μου ότι βλέπω τέτοια νηφικά τα οποία είναι υψηλής ραπτικής αλλά μπορούν να είναι προσιτά για όλες τις γυναίκες. Μπορεί να τα αγοράσει κάποιος να τα έχει στο κατάστημα».
What is the legacy Stalo Theodorou would like to leave behind?
Θέλω να με θυμούνται σαν την νεράιδα που με το άγγιγμα της έκανε το όνειρο της κάθε γυναίκας πραγματικότητα. Με αυτό θέλω να με θυμούνται. Επίσης θέλω να θυμούνται το ρομαντισμό και τη φινέτσα που χαρακτηρίζει τις δημιουργίες μου. Το χθες πέρασε, στα χέρια σου είναι το σήμερα, να το κάνεις καλύτερο από το χθες. Αυτό είναι έτσι, μια αρχή που την έχω στο μυαλό μου συνέχεια και επίσης κάτι που έχω σαν αρχή, σαν άνθρωπος, μην κάνεις τους άλλους αυτόν που δεν θέλεις να σου κάνουν εσένα.
As a master violin maker, Michalis Pantelides did not set out to become a star in the golden age of Cypriot violin making. Instead, he set out to be the best craftsman he could possibly be. Michalis, do you remember the moment or period of time in which you knew you wanted to become a violin maker?
I was playing violin since a child. I was playing also at the Cyprus Youth Orchestra. When I was looking what to do like a profession, it came to my mind to make a violin. Why not to make violins? From child I like to make small models of ships and this stuff. So I check about how you can study this and I found the school in Italy, in Cremona. So I decided to go violin making. It's very challenging and very nice to be there in a city where the first violin maker, Andrea Amati, was born. You walk in the street, you see the house of Stradivari. In the museum, there is all the tools, the instruments, the forms. So you breathe violin every second practically.
What is your favorite part of the process of making a violin?
It's a long process, a process of approximately 250 working hours just to arrive at the result that's ready to varnish. First process is to choose a model. Usually we are going to the famous model like Stradivari model or Guarneri model. Then you choose your wood and then it's a process that slowly you take your model, you make the ribs the size of the violin, you model the top and the back, you cut and start carving and build the violin slowly. Each violin is different because you have to feel the characteristics that each wood has and make it a little bit thinner or change a little bit the arching in order to arrive in your mind at least to the sound that you want in the final stage. To the inside of the instruments there is the fire stamp that we put and also the label that is signed and everything. But I think it's the work that is really the sign of each artist. No? Because if take my violin to Cremona, they will say, this is made by Michalis. No? It's characteristic, maybe small things that for normal people are not visible, but for a professional, he can understand who made each violin. No? I am following the traditional Cremona violin making, that even few workshops in Cremona, they don't follow it anymore because it's a slow process to make the violin. So I stuck to the tradition. It's a mixture of understanding the violin, the technology of the material, chemistry for the varnish, for example, and then put everything together by the hand, by making it. So the last violin that I sold, it was in a young girl that is 15 years old but very talented. And when you see her that take your violin and produce sound, and she like it, and she can be better also, and that's very emotional when you feel and see the connection between violin and violin player, because it's always also a matter of matching them. Not each violin is perfect for each player, no? You have to find the correct matching, and when you see that happening, it's very emotional.
Master Sweets is a chic, luxurious confectionery specializing in handcrafted baklava with unparalleled taste. Located in the center of Pafos, this beautiful establishment, founded by Syrian confectioner Zahed Bazirbashi, offers an array of hand-picked desserts which are brought to the table with passion and care.
Ήρθα το Κύπρο και είπα εντάξει θέλω να κάνω κάτι το κόμμο για να δει το κόσμος τι έχουμε εμείς μπακλαβά, τι έχουμε γλυκά. Σκέφτηκα να κάνω κάτι διαφορετικά με το κλασικό το μπακλαβά ή μόνο το χολεμπιανό. Όταν είμαι 13 χρονών πήγα και έμαθα έτσι πράγματα, το αραβικά μπακλαβά και το καταΐφι. Έχω ένα φίλο στον παπά του, έχει ένα μαγαζί ζαχαροπλαστείο έτσι και έμαθα από εκεί. Σιγά σιγά έμαθα πώς να κάνω, πώς να ανοίξω το μπακλαβά και να κάνω κάτι καινούρια πάνω στο μπακλαβά.
Master Sweets introduces one to a legacy of luxury and extravagance through its various classic and exquisite varieties of gourmet baklava.
Έκανα το μπακλαβά του με φράουλα, έκανα μπακλαβά με διάφορες σκούνες, έβαλα με αμύγδαλο και το καρύδι και πινούλια, κάσονα και έκανα πάλι το κλασικό το μπακλαβά αλλά με κακάο, έβαλα μέσα, sugar free, έκανα κάτι gluten free, κάνουμε κάθε μέρα φρέσκα το μπακλαβά και έχουμε κάτι καλό, διαφορετικά με το άλλο το μαχαζιά, το ζαχαροπλαστείο, δεν έχει πολύ σιρόπι μέσα.
One of their best sellers is the delightful kunafa, a crunchy, buttery dessert made with shredded pastry layers, enclosing a creamy soft cheese filling, best consumed right out of the oven.
Έχουμε το καλύτερα κουναφέ για μένα γιατί όλα το φρέσκα, το τυρί και το καταΐφι και το βότυρο το βάλουμε πάνω, βάλουμε το τυρί, το φρέσκα τυρί και μετά βάλουμε στο γάζι μέχρι να ψήνει και μετά βάλουμε στο δίσκο και να στο σιρόπι και πιστάτσιο. Πάρα πολύ νόστιμο το κουναφέ το κάνουμε. Κάθε μέρα όταν έρθω για μένα να ανοίξω το μαγαζί, είμαι πάρα πολύ χαρούμενος για μένα στο Κύπρο. Είπα να μάθω το ελληνικά και να μιλάω ελληνικά για να ανοίξω το δικά μας το ζαχαροπλαστείο, για να έχουμε κάτι καλό μπροστά του κόσμο για μένα το Κυπρί, να δει το ζαχαροπλαστείο το δικά μας πώς είναι και το μπακλαβά και δικά μας το πράγματα. Και είμαι πάρα πολύ happy και μια χαρά είναι εδώ.
Haji Mike is one of the island's most renowned music artists, radio presenters and disc jockeys. Yet behind the portrait of a talented musician and artistic creator lies an academic persona, that of an associate professor and head of the Department of Communications at the University of Nicosia. Haji Mike, you're a multi-talented individual that has toured extensively throughout the world, promoting your own unique blend of music. Take us back to the beginning. How did it all start?
Very few people actually ask me about all the different dimensions of my life. Most people are stuck on one or two things, but it's great to be able to explain how all this sort of happened, you know. Originally, I was doing a PhD in London. My first step into music was as a DJ, and I worked on the university radio station for 5 years, and I loved radio. And I also got into music journalism. And this was always going parallel with a sort of academic, whatever you want to call it, career. Because I did a first degree in government and sociology. My second degree was in cross-cultural studies. I saw this short theatre in the West End with two sisters, they weren't sisters, but I consider them my sisters, Eve Adam and Martha Lewis. And this was called the Doner and Kebab Show, which was partly Sadiram, but some amazing singing. And they were singing very much, completely different vocally from what I was doing, but I was singing about that British Cypriot experience. And so I got inspired by people like that initially. I thought it would be good to do something, and I stumbled across it completely accidentally, to do something in reggae like this. And so I started doing my first sort of experiments, which started from about 1990 as Haji Mike. Unfortunately, I spent a long time trying to finish my PhD, largely due to my music, because the music took off in Cyprus. Never wanted to be a star, as Cat Stevens says. You know, it wasn't what I intended. I just wanted to make a point that we exist, not just as British Cypriots, but as Cypriots in a musical sense. I found myself becoming a sort of specialist writer in reggae music, which I was very passionate and still am, you know, I still do it. So I just wanted to make a contribution, really. I've always felt the need to kind of like put Cyprus on the map musically. In the 80s and 90s, roughly 30 to 40,000 people came back to Cyprus from England, Canada, USA, South Africa, Australia. All over the world you've got Cypriots. Something happened during that time. I wasn't the only person doing something. You know, tens of thousands of people coming back and bringing things back with them. I think this has played a really important part in changing culture in Cyprus, because we didn't just come back for nostalgia's sake. We came back because, especially our generation, if we was in our 20s and 30s or even younger, we came back because we wanted to, you know, because this is our place of origin. And of course, the other factor in all this is tourism, which happens a little bit later in terms of musical tourism, with places like Napa and Pafos and stuff like that. But I think that is, again, linked to these Cypriots from abroad. You know, the first person to bring dance music to Cyprus, in terms of Ayannaba way anyway, is a bloke called Nick Power, who basically was a British Cypriot who had a record shop in Haringey. And he came and set up the Core Club, which was one of the most famous clubs in Ayannaba. In my very small way, I did the same thing in Pafos. You know, I started in Pafos, I didn't start anywhere else.
How has your music evolved from then to the music you're producing now?
At some point I started thinking, I want to say things about Cyprus. I've written a lot of poetry. I want to do my poetry as performance and record it as performance. And I want to do things all in English, because that's just what I want to do. The whole liberating fact of being an independent artist is you haven't got a record company telling you what to do. Because a record company would have said to me, right, we need another 5 songs like Vragaman for the next 5 albums. You've got to have one like that every time. I didn't do that. But the next album, Aphrodite's Dream, was completely different. There was a song on there, Maro Maria, which again was about infidelity. It's quite a fun song. Again with English lyrics and stuff like this, but that was completely different from Vragaman. It wasn't really so reggae influenced. My first album, there's spoken word poetry, When Cyprus Becomes One, which is a heavyweight track, and it was my most popular song of all time. And that got on a compilation in Japan of spoken word poetry, which sold 20,000 copies.
Your dub poetry has appeared on many underground artist creations. For those who are not familiar with this form of performance poetry, how would you define its style and purpose?
My first encounter with dub poetry was with the godfather of dub poetry, Lyndon Kwesi Johnson. So when I was a student, he came and performed with John Cooper Clarke, who's a punk rock poetry performer, phenomenal guy. And it was both of them solo, there was no music, it was just reading or performing their poetry. And I've always been inspired by his work and other people's work from that time. I was going through this sort of parallel phase really, DJing, Greek weddings, clubs. Clubs I was playing reggae, Greek weddings was paying my rent really, you know, it was the bread and butter. Parallel to that I was releasing my songs. And parallel to that, I was doing a lot of performance poetry as solo, like going somewhere with another 10, 20 people and reading 3 or 4, performing 3 or 4 poems. And that started to take off for me. I've come to a point now where I see it more as spoken word. So it's not even poetry, it's a spoken word performance. And it doesn't have to rhyme, it could just be abstract. You know, like the recent single that I did, The Wild, is all about a call to live, you know, a more natural way of living, away from the toxicity of what we're being fed all the time on social media.
In 2018, you co-founded a new studio in Nicosia called Blind Dog Media. Tell us about that.
We develop a lot of interesting stuff from there, and it's just a place where people can, you know, not worry about looking at the clock and how much they're going to be charged. Because a lot of studios are like that. You know, it's just a passion, really. We're not doing it to become millionaires. We're doing it because we love music. Our personal mantra is express yourself. I've always believed that. And just do it. You know, don't let anyone hold you back.
Guided by his passion and the curiosity to transform bright ideas into worldwide products that deliver results, Alexey Gubarev is spearheading an organization with a vision to empower billions of people to live healthier and happier lives. Alexey, you founded Palta, a health and well-being technology company, in 2016, together with Yuri Gursky. What was the key factor that inspired you to establish this unique global mobile health and well-being ecosystem?
We start with something, then you understand like, okay, it works nicely. Then you see how it's developed. You see maybe another opportunity. You see another market which can be touched within the framework which you are interested in. And this is how it was created, because like when we started, it was only 4 in our portfolio, some other companies. Like. Then we understand that the digital health market is growing very much, and we prefer to concentrate on this market, which not only is growing market, but also is bringing in positive impact for the people. In our portfolio, there's few companies who is very famous. First of all is a company Flow. We started as a period tracker for the women, but now is more like health application for women, which cover a lot of areas of the woman health. We have over 80 doctors on board who is reviewed, like each material which woman will see and read is reviewed several times and have to pass the medical board. For us, it's very important we are not delivering something which don't have science establishment. We really want to give the best product and to make sure that we give accurate information for the women. Second one is a simple fasting. We saw that is coming trend about fasting in the world, and we decided to develop application in this sector. I was using myself when we started for 7-8 months. It was really helpful, and I see how even my style and lifestyle is changing. When you're doing a health company, you have to be healthy yourself. People have habits. And sometimes to change these habits is not so easy, they need some help. I believe simple fasting is your small helper who can help you to go to this direction if you decide to do this. Our application is not only to create it like health improvement, but it's also help to kids to born. Because we help women to find exact period what's the best to become pregnant. By using our application, born over 5 million people worldwide.
The Cyprus government has introduced various incentives to attract more high-tech companies to the island, aimed at developing Cyprus as a technology hub. What are some of the factors that made you choose Cyprus as a base for Palta?
For me, Cyprus started so many years ago that it started in 2002. And I moved here because it was a safe place. I cannot even buy apartment at that time in Russia, because they refused to give me a loan to buy it. And in Cyprus, I was 21 years old, and they told me, okay, it's okay, like if you can prove your income, we can give you a loan to buy your first apartment. And actually, my first apartment was bought in Cyprus in my life. We established Service.com office and group in 2005 in Limassol, and right now we have almost 90 people there. And this means when Palta was happening here, we started to operate. We was already in Cyprus. For us, it was already home. We are happy where we live. We like the Cyprus. We enjoy it. And you know, a lot of people are telling, oh, but living by the sea is not giving you a working experience. I don't know, it's not working this way. Like for us, we are really hard workers. Because I can tell you, like without hard work, nothing will happen. I do believe the IT can be the main driver of GDP growth during the next 5 to 7 years. We are very impressed this as well as a tech island, because it was our first mission to make sure that Cyprus become attractive for IT companies.
Palta recently announced it raised $100 million in a Series B funding round led by Per Brilioth at VNV Global and with the participation of Target Global and other investors. How will this funding be used to scale Palta's offerings in the health and well-being industry?
It was a big success for us, like, to raise 100 million, because it's proof that what we are doing is really right stuff and people willing to support it. Money will be used, some of them we want to acquire some companies, which we do believe we can improve, and they match our portfolio of digital health direction. And also we have, like inside, we have co-founding process. What means like we found the co-founders and we start with them new companies with ideas which we have, sometimes they have, but we need to develop them. We are doing 2-3 new companies every year. And this money will be used to develop a new direction in the digital health industry.
What is the legacy Alexey Gubarev would like to leave behind?
It's not always decided by you. Like, for example, we have so many paint artists who died and they was not famous during their life. And some people after decide that they will become famous. I think not you create the legacy sometimes created by themselves. And I believe if you just follow the good life and proper, you do good things in your life, legacy will be there. And what is a legacy, people will decide.
Mikis Theodorakis' prolific career produced a hugely varied body of work that ranged from somber symphonies to popular television and film scores. But the towering man with trademark worker suits, hoarse voice and wavy hair is also remembered by Greeks for his stubborn opposition to post-war regimes that persecuted him and outlawed his music. Born on the eastern Aegean island of Chios on the 29th of July 1925, Theodorakis was exposed to music and politics from a young age. He began writing music and poetry in his teens just as Greece entered World War II. During the war, he was arrested by the country's Italian and German occupiers for his involvement in left-wing resistance groups. After the Second World War, those same groups bitterly opposed the government and monarchy, which led to a civil war in which the communist-backed rebels eventually lost. Theodorakis was jailed and sent to remote Greek islands, including the infamous re-education camp on the small island of Makronissos near Athens. Despite the hardships, he managed to establish himself as a respected musician. A prolific career as a composer began in earnest as he worked in a huge range of genres, from film scores and ballet music to operas and ancient Greek tragedies, and setting the work of leading poets to music, including the music series based on poems written by Nazi concentration camp survivor Iakovos Kambanelis, The Ballad of Mauthausen, which described the horrors of camp life and the Holocaust. But it was the Oscar-winning film adaptation of Nikos Kazantzakis' Zorba the Greek in 1964 and the slow-to-frenetic title score by Theodorakis that is now firmly identified in the public's mind as synonymous with Greece and its defiant celebration of life.
Together.
In 1969, he wrote the score for Z, a film based on the assassination of Greek peace activist Grigoris Lambrakis, which won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film that year. As Theodorakis' fame grew, political turmoil in Greece continued, and his compositions were banned by a military dictatorship that governed the country between 1967 and 1974, turning his music into a soundtrack of celebrations when democracy was restored and of resistance that would be played at protest rallies for decades. Fans of his music were as varied as his work. The Beatles sang a cover of his song, and he was awarded the Lenin Peace Prize by the former Soviet Union. Tireless in later life, Theodorakis continued to work with emerging artists and compositions that included music for the opening ceremony of the Barcelona Olympics in 1992. He was a member of parliament for the Greek Communist Party for most of the 1980s, but later served the cabinet of the Conservative government. He spoke at rallies supporting Palestinian statehood, against the war in Iraq, and more recently in opposition to an agreement to end a name dispute between Greece and North Macedonia. His defenders saw him as a unifier, willing to take bold decisions to try to heal the country's bitter and long-standing political divisions. Mikis Theodorakis was a beloved Greek composer whose spirited music and life of political defiance won international acclaim and inspired millions at home. Stay connected and follow us on social media. If you want to be featured on Culturescope, contact our production team by visiting the website below. Until next time, stay safe and let culture transform your life.